Oh, I cannot share my screen. Anna, can you give me? Yeah, now I can. Okay. So I've seen some of you yesterday, and that's great because we can skip some of the points, not all of the points. I usually would talk about with you. Just a quick introduction. Again, you know this, most of you know this. I'm a communication researcher at the northeast of Germany, and I'm researching platforms, public sphere, and my special topic is computational methods here. For today, I want to introduce you to web scraping with Facepager. So I hope you hear me, but no, yeah, okay, great. Web scraping is somewhat complex and can get really messy. And I will give you a brief introduction, not into every detail, but into the general process. I don't know whether you have done web scraping before. I would have polled this, but I skipped this point. Yesterday, we skipped the part about network data. And today, I want to start with you with network data. And then we go to the other use cases we have for web scraping. So some of you that you missed the network part yesterday can get some ideas of how to deal with network data with Facepager. At the beginning, what you see here is a link network of Fridays for Future. This is just the first order zone. So what I did here is I took the fridaysforfuture.org page, and then I extracted every link on this page to other pages. And you can imagine you can go on with this. Yes, you can extract the links to the links to the links to the links, and then you get several types of networks. That's something I want to show you at first, but I will focus on the data collection part. So not on the analysis part. You have a practical labs about Gephi. This is Gephi later. Just let me show you some more networks that you get a feeling about how the web works if you crawl it. I show you. Yeah, maybe we take this one. This is another network from Fridays for Future as well. And what you see here is, okay, I should relay out this. What you see here is once you start with the web scraping and you crawl the web and follow the links, it gets really crowded. And you have to think about how to narrow down the data collection process. Here is the starting point, Fridays for Future. And I zoom out and you'll see how small this is compared to everything else in the network. So we have some big pages inside here, like Twitter or Facebook, and you have to think about how to narrow your network down if you do this. But this gives interesting insights into how several, for example, social movements work. I show you another network. This is the network, a very small one, around this QAnon page. Yeah, this is the starting node is this one, QAnon.pub. And what you see here, for example, is they use lots of encrypted messaging here, but it is not very connected. That's a very interesting part, because we have a social movement that is not very connected on the web, not from this starting point. Yeah, there are other anchor points that are very well connected. Okay, so that's just for the beginning, so you have an idea of where this could take us. The first part. Facepager is a tool for automated data collection using APIs and web scraping, and the web scraping feature is still experimental. Yeah, we are trying out several things, and Facepager always gets a boost in functions when I need it. So when I'm doing a study, and once I needed web scraping, I thought, okay, it would be easier to do it with Facepager than with writing my own scripts, because in Facepager we have several features that help you. For example, doing parallel data collection. This is an open source project. You find the app, the installers on this GitHub page, and I hope you have already downloaded and installed Facepager, because then you can follow me along. Just a few words about all these general things. What it is not, I said this yesterday as well, it's not a solution where you click one button and then you get everything and have your analysis ready. But it helps you learning about web scraping, and you should try to figure out things for yourself. That's the approach of Facepager. So it's a way to learn about automated data collection, and then in the end you have your data for sure. And it's not a backdoor to platforms or user data, so we work with public data here. The basic thing Facepager does, and this is crucial for web scraping, is it assembles URLs. URLs are the web addresses you put in the browser, and it puts together URLs, such as this YouTube URL here. And this consists of a base path and a path to the resource. This is the part behind the domain, and then parameters. And Facepager assembles this all for you. And what is interesting about this assembling is that you can use placeholders. So you can set a placeholder to YouTube, come watch, and then to the last parameter here, for example. And you can collect data about all videos you insert it as starting nodes. So assembling URLs from placeholders is the key feature of Facepager. What you get then in the next step is some data. If you opened the Instagram page of the Smart Data Sprint, you would see something like this picture to your left, and there we have, for example, this number of followers here, 100 followers, and what's behind this is HTML. So there is a source code behind this, and we will look into source code in some minutes. And web scraping is the process of getting data out of this source code. So you need to read HTML and learn a little bit about HTML. And if you look at this slide, you see a link here. We will, in the first part for today, we will extract links. The link is this A tag there, A class null3, and then comes an href attribute, and this is the link. So we will extract some links now. Facepager comes from another domain of automated data collection. In the beginning, we only dealt with APIs, and APIs usually deliver JSON or XML, but nowadays it's JSON most of the time. The JSON format is much more structured. We have the follower count as well here, and this is much easier to process. But for now, we go for web scraping for the complex part, for the black box in the middle. That's I think that's one of the most interesting topics, because this is at the core of how the web works, and you can learn a lot of how the web works once you start web scraping. So in general, we have a client and a server when we browse the web, or when we search things. And usually we use a browser, and now we use a tool. The tool is Facepager here. And if you go to an API, we use application programming interface. And if we work with the HTML of the websites, we do web scraping. Both these things, websites, HTML or APIs, give you a representation what's in the database of the website provider. And what you have to keep in mind here when doing web scraping is that there is no documentation. There is no standard way of doing this, because every web page has its own setup. You have to dive into the details of the web page you're dealing with. But we'll see this in some minutes. So Facepager has some modules for APIs. This is YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Amazon. And you can use lots of other APIs with a generic module. And we will use the generic module for web scraping now. We have some presets that can get you started. And you can export the resulting data to a CSV file and process it with whatever tool you like, Excel or I use R, and then I go further. I prepare my data with R, and then I use it, for example, with Gephi. We have several help resources. There are lots of tooltips in the program. So if you hover with your mouse over a button, you get some hints about what this button does. We have a wiki on GitHub with getting started tutorials, a Facebook user group. We welcome you to join there and to ask your questions. We have some YouTube tutorials about web scraping as well. So that's how Facepager looks like. And I guess most of you know, but I repeat this because this is learning. Yeah? Learning is doing things 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times. So the more often you see this and hear this, the more you have it in your mind. And for all the participants that are new today, this is the first introduction maybe. So the layout of Facepager is we have a menu bar and a status bar, top and bottom. And menu bar, you find some basic functions for creating databases. And in the bottom, in the status bar, you, for example, you see the database you have opened at the moment. This is the YouTube Comments database I created, for example. Then we have some in the upper half, we have some views that give you insights into the data. The notes view is the central point of Facepager. Here you see every record, for example, every web page or every link or every Facebook comment or Twitter comment. And if you click on one of the links, you get detailed data in the data view. And if you want to transfer data from the data view into the notes view, then you adjust the column setup. You say which data, which columns you want to see in the notes view. This is important because when you export the data, you export everything that is in the notes view. So you define what you want to export and want to see with the column setup. How do we get the data? We get the data by assembling URLs, and that's done in the query setup here, where lots of options are available. I will talk about few of them and show few of them. And when you collect data, you get a status log to the right, and there you have all the error messages on these things. Going through collecting data with Facepager is always 3 phases. It's input, throughput, output, and it's the same for APIs for web scraping, but with different query setups. So in the input phase, we create a new database. We add a starting node. In this case, we add a web page as a starting node, and that's all for the input. You can add several starting nodes if you want, several web pages, several Facebook handles. In throughput phase, the easiest way is to select a preset, then adjust the settings. And if you're working with an API, you log into Google. We won't log in now because we're doing web scraping. There is no API behind this. And then you click on Fetch Data. Load preset, adjust the settings, fetch data, and then you get the data. And for the output, you inspect your data, click on nodes, and see what's in the data view. Then adjust the columns and click Export. And then you have a CSV file with your data. So let's have a look at how to do web scraping with Facepager. And if you can, open Facepager and create a new database. I will head over to Facepager in 2 or 3 minutes. And then you can follow me along and we try out several things. Before we start with this, I want to have a look onto a web page we try out in the first step. This is the web page of fridaysforfuture.org, and here we have a list of countries. And if you click on one of these here, you see links to other pages and social media accounts of, for example, the Israel Fridays for Future movement. And what you need to do when doing web scraping, you need to know what kind of HTML you want. So you can click, for example, this link here. And for me, it's in German, but you will have something very similar. This is inspect in English. You have something like inspect. You can click here in inspect, and this opens a developer pane down here. You can get the same pane here when you click F12, the F12 key on most of your computers, and then you can go through these elements here. And when I hover this element, I see on the page where it is, and I selected this link here, and I will zoom in a little bit so you can better see this. This is HTML. These are HTML elements, and for now we're looking for links. Link elements are anchor elements. They always start with this A here, and then they have an href. And what is inside the link is what the icon in this case. Yeah, we see here's something that defines the world here, this bubble here. Yeah. So what we want to do is extract from this page all A tags, extract all these things in the href, and then we follow them. We download this page and look onto this page whether there are A links as well, and then we can follow the links over several waves. We will try this out, and it's not that complicated in the for the first steps, but it gets more complicated the further you go. So I take this Fridays for Future org address in my clipboard. I copy this to have it in Facepager. And now you can, if you have Facepager ready, you can start Facepager and try to follow me along. The first step is I create a new database. That's where everything is stored in. I call this, I have one here, I overwrite it. I call this Fridays for Futures countries. And if I do this, the nodes view is blank. The next step is to add a node, and you can take whatever web page you want. I add this address here. It has to be with the protocol, with the HTTP or HTTPS, the full address. And that's input, database, and starting node. And you could add several of these. Then I go to the presets. There's this preset button. And in the scraping section, you will find a preset, extract links from a web page. There, in these presets, you will find some explanation of what you can do and what the preset does. And I encourage you to read this. In the web scraping, there's not much details inside of these presets, because this is very, very different from website to website, what happens. But we select the extract links from a web page preset. And this transfers the settings of the presets into the modules here. And for this, we use the generic module. What happens here is that when we fetch data, this placeholder in the brackets, it's called object ID here, is replaced by what we have in the nodes view here, by the object ID. So the URL that is assembled is quite easy. It's this URL in the object ID column. And I added two more headers here. One header that says only get me HTML. This is this except header, because we don't want to download for example, video files here. That will get a very big database if you downloaded video files, and video files are linked on the web as well. And I set a user agent. The user agent says who you are, what kind of browser you are. And if you don't set a user agent, and visit a web page, that the web page will see that you are a Python script. The standard user agent of Facepager comes from a library in Python. I assembled you a document. You will find this in the schedule, linked in the schedule. There are some details about user agents and these things. If you want to work with this later, download this thing, and then you see the steps I do here in a very brief fashion. So I set a user agent, and I mimic the behavior of a browser here. For this, I think it's the Chrome browser, but you can add other user agents as well, or define your own. And then this preset does a pretty has few settings only. Does a pretty nice thing. It selects here links in the response, and this links selection here, if you hover over this, you got some extra explanation. This will automatically extract you the links. So I have nothing to do like to click on this node and click fetch data. And when I fetch data and open the node, we have all links that are on this page. These are the links on that page. And now we follow these links to the next links. And for now, we got 129 links here on one page. So this will get big if you go further and further and further. And here a special feature Facepager kicks in. In the settings, you can define multiple threads. You can say, okay, don't go one link by link by link, one after another, but go in parallel. And you can say, for example, let me fetch this by 4 parallel scripts at the same time. Don't go too high because you will hit the limit of your operating system. So for example, in Windows, if you set it to 10 or 20, Windows will not allow you this. I guess on some systems it might work, on others it won't work. So increase this, for example, to 4 or 6 or something like this. Then you can increase the requests per minute. Facepager has a limit to not go too fast. I just put another 0 behind here, but you will see it won't get that fast because websites will respond not that fast most of the time. And then we have some other settings that are interesting here. They are hidden in the more settings section here. We can define the request timeout, because in web scraping you will encounter lots of errors. Pages that don't exist anymore, broken links, pages that say no, don't scrape me, and these things. And Facepager will automatically try 3 times to download the page, and at worst this will take you 15 times 3 seconds for one request, so 45 seconds. And if you lower this a little bit, let's say to 5 seconds, this Facepager won't stuck on this error nodes. And you can, okay, if you don't see the request timeout option, then you have an older version of Facepager. Is this right? You have the latest update on the GitHub. Okay, we'll look onto your screen in a minute. Okay. Yeah, we talk about the node level in a minute as well. Well, yeah, it's the latest release, but there are updated binaries from yesterday, for example. So if there is on the releases page, it says November 2020, then there are lots of other releases in between, but the date doesn't change on GitHub. Okay, we will check out what happens on your computers in a minute. Just let me go through this first. Yeah, you have the presentation in. I see the chat for now. You have the presentation file in the schedule, linked in the schedule. In the schedule, there's a link to the presentation file. Okay, I go on. You reduce the request timeout and reduce the maximum size. This is how many megabytes you want to download from each page. So if you have, for example, video files or something like this, you need a bigger amount. But if you cap this here to 1 megabyte, for example, this will prevent you from accidentally downloading big files here. This is a new feature we added. Okay, now back to the node level. If you click on one node here, you could fetch data for this one node. You could click on fetch data here. And if you have this error like, who was it? Anna Sophia, then maybe you need to click on the starting node again. Okay, click on this node and then click fetch data, or on this one. And if you click on the node, you will see a node level here. The first node here is level 1, and the second level is level 2. And you don't need to select all the nodes and then fetch data. You can select the parent node, the top node here, and increase the node level by 1. And this will process all nodes on level, all child nodes on level 2. And if I do this and click fetch data, this adds all these nodes to the queue, and we have 6 active threads. Yeah, and it takes some seconds to scrape the pages behind the pages. And now we have, you see this in the log, we have 10,000 downloaded 10,000 web pages in some seconds. Yeah, so it can get really big. And I repeat this for one more, but you will see this will get really big then. So I repeat this, I go to the top node and increase the node level to 3 this time, and start fetching data. And then you will see that I will cancel this because this will take us some time. Yeah, this will try to fetch all the links on the links on the links, and this is not a good idea. I cancel this here. This needs to shut down all the active threads and takes some time to shut all the active threads. This is a very naive approach to web crawling, just going link by link by link, because we have lots of duplicates in here. And maybe it isn't necessary to follow every link. Maybe you want to follow only the reciprocal links, for example, pages that link back to Fridays for Future, because you will wander out of your network very, very fast. And you will be, you start in Lisbon and you will be in Washington in 2 clicks. So this is the web. Yeah. So a better approach is to export the data. And if you export the data, I export all. I select here to export all nodes. If you export the data, you get a CSV file. And this CSV file, where is it? It's this one. You can open this CSV file in Excel if it's not too large. And in this CSV file, you will find everything you have in the nodes view. Yeah. So in this case, the most interesting part is the object ID. And you have this hierarchical structure here. So every row here has an ID, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, and a parent ID. And the parent ID says to which parent page in this case the row belongs. So Fridays for Future, or we take another one, take this one here. This row, Fridays for Future org, what we do, strike statistics. This was linked by ID number 1, and number 1 is this here. It's the Fridays for Future org page. If you go down here, for example, we see here a row, this link here, we got to this link by node number 3, and ID number 3 is this one. So what you have to do now to get to network data is to create an edge list and a node list from this, or if you do web scraping for other purposes, not for crawling, then you can skip this, but you can process this file, remove duplicates, say, okay, just one link per domain, all sorts of things, and then you can re-import the CSV files to Facepager to add new starting points. We have in the app notes section, we have this load CSV option here, and you can import a CSV file here, and then you can go on with the next links. This is a better approach to manage this, because I mean you can run this for weeks if you want, but it takes weeks then. I show you how to process this with R, just to give you a quick idea of how to do this. We have, well, let's head over to the wiki. We have several R scripts in the Facepager wiki, and here we have a point data analysis. And if you click on this, you get, for example, down here a script that helps you with preparing data for Gephi. Yeah, so this reads a CSV file, creates an edge list, a node list, exports this in a format Gephi understands. It's not that complicated. You just need to install R and RStudio and copy paste this script and adjust the file name, and then you have it. And we have a tutorial here about we have a getting started about YouTube related videos network here, or scraping links from web pages. And here you have, well, that's not a good one. In the part about the YouTube networks, you have some more introduction to what to do with the R script and what to do with Gephi to come to a network. So this gives you the getting started sections. Give you some more info, because we have very limited time. Yeah. So I want to show you another use case for web scraping. That but before we do this, maybe you have some questions or some. I stop my screen sharing so I can see you. Maybe you have some questions or things you want to say.
Can I start? Mine never scraped any of the links. It just said empty and offcut, and it gave me something that I don't know.
Yeah, can you share your screen with us?
Let me see if I can. Oh no, host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Oh.
I just put you as a co-host, Sana, so okay. I think now you can share.
In that case, I think I will. Can you see it?
Yeah.
This? So what it gave me was these two
okay, you
layers.
Are Mac.
Yeah, and on the log.
Also on a Mac.
This was the result.
Okay, and can you? Okay, the user interface is very crowded on the Mac. Can you show me the settings? The generic settings. So
yeah. So oh no, it's not
the other. Yeah, and what is on the top of the settings? Oh, you can scroll there. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So it has the object ID.
Okay. And you have
user agent.
Error could not extract links. Okay, I guess this is a specific Mac issue. Anyone else on the Mac where this version of Facepager worked for you? Maybe this has something to do with changes we did in the last releases. Who's on Mac and succeeded? Okay, nobody. I guess this has to do with the link extraction here. Couldn't, because the error is to the right. If you click on the error on the offcut node, you see to your top right, you see an error message, and this is could not extract links. That means the code for extracting the links failed here, but I don't know why at the moment. I will check this out. Ah, there.
Here,
CSS
this
selector.
one.
Okay. This is this is an error in the release in one of the latest releases. So I need to update the releases for the Mac to do this.
Okay.
That's not okay. That's not that so cool because I guess other features won't work as well with the web scraping. Yeah, as I said, it's very experimental, and I'm not a Mac user, so I don't test a lot on Mac. Yeah, we will fix this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So we have something in the chat here. Okay, installing issues on Facepager. That's, I think we don't have the time to handle this now, Eric. You can try an older version. I have the other ones there, but if you want, come to the Facepager user group, and we can try to fix this. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to show you another use case, and this is related to the question of oh, my pronunciation is bad again. Jose, sorry.
Jose.
Jose, sorry. Yeah. I will take the last minutes, and we'll look into another use case that's more related to web scraping than following the links, because in this case we didn't do anything with the custom table columns here, nothing, because it's just following the links, and we have the links in the object ID. So let's have a look at a classical web scraping example, and you find some presets in the in Facepager, for example, for scraping Wikipedia tables or something like this. I have selected here very simple or something that works for not for all news pages, but for some. For example, here the BBC page, and I used the search feature here and search for news about disinformation campaigns. And you could copy paste all these if you want, or you have a database like Lexis University. But if you don't have and want to extract from a search result page, this can be other kinds of pages as well. Then you have to do web scraping. And if we inspect this here, we will see one of these. We'll see that they are wrapped into a hierarchy of elements here, and one of this is an UL element. This is unordered list, and then we have list elements here, and every item here is a list element. Here we have these list elements, and then we have several sub-elements containing the information here. So we needed to deal with this structure and get an idea of what we want. For example, if we wanted the date here, the 10th December 2020, then this is somewhere inside of one moment. No, I don't have somewhere inside of this structure. And if I follow this, we can see where it is, somewhere deeply nested in in this structure. So here it is, and we wanted to extract this one, and that's where we need this feature for the column setup. So you need to go into this, and once you start doing web scraping, you get a feeling about what kind of elements, how does the structure of a web page work, or something like this. But first of all, you need to find the element you want to have. And what is interesting about this element is, I'll zoom into this, is we can identify this by classes. For example, here we see a span tag that has this attribute type published. So we could download the page, and then we extract all the list items from the several news items, and then we try to extract this specific element here, span with a type published. Or we can go for this one. This is interesting as well. Maybe no, this is not interesting. This is the better one here. This one. I'll show you how to do this with Facepager. I prepared a preset for this, and it's this BBC search results preset. There's an article content preset as well after you fetch the search results. And if I put just what we could do is the same thing as before. We could add this this whole link here and set the base path to object ID, clear out every settings, maybe set a user agent or something like this. But if we want to process different search queries, for example, different terms here, disinformation campaign, or you want to know something about the Internet Research Agency or something like this, it's better to add just the search term. And yeah, I say I want to search for disinformation campaign, and then let Facepager assemble the URL. And I will do this together with you to show you how this works. We have this URL, and what we are doing is we split up this. This is the base path where the domain is, then it is followed by the resource, and then we have parameters here, and we split up these parameters. We say Q is disinformation campaign, like this. This is, yeah, this split up the URL, and then we want to use placeholder, the object ID placeholder, to replace the value with what we entered here. And if we do this and click on fetch data, not on Mac, sorry for this at the moment, we get the results of the on this in this list. And this works because blank this out, because of this key to extract here, or due to this key to extract here. If we didn't enter something there, we would get one node, and all the HTML would be in the text value here. This is all. If I hover this, we see this. This is the HTML. And Facepager has a feature that is called extract data. If you click on this, you can scrape things out of this HTML. And you do this by using CSS or Xpath selectors. I will show you something about this soon. This is a basic technique of in the web, Xpath and CSS. I have a slide for you to better understand this. We select by CSS or Xpath, we select elements in this mess here, okay? And Facepager does it by using this modifier syntax. We say we want to use CSS followed by a colon, and then we need to say what the expression is. For example, we select all list elements. This is LE. Okay, I zoom up in all LE elements. Or we say we want all A elements, all the links. Yeah. And the key we used here is I use inside the main element and inside the URL, the unordered list element, all list elements. And this, you have a preview here. This slices up the HTML into the several elements. And if you now click apply here, this would slice them. Okay, this is the same. This is the same content inside here, like here, but in the first place, I put this key to extract not here and did it manually, but I put it into this field below, and then this is extracted automatically when you fetch data. So once you have your keys and you know how to slice, you put the keys here. Okay, and the Xpath part, I will skip this for now. No, I will show you in another way, because in every of these list elements, again, now we have only the selected of these nodes, we have only the selected HTML again in this text property. So we have the HTML of the list element here, and we can do the same thing. We can go to extract data, and then we saw earlier, this is a little bit for advanced use. We saw earlier we have a span tag with type published, and to extract this we can use Xpath, and I prepared one expression in the table column setup here. You have this in the preset if you loaded the preset. If I put this, for example, here in key for object ID, you see this addresses this specific snippet here. How does it work? It's similar to Xpath, to CSS. We say we want a span element, and then we say we want span elements with these attributes. And we don't want the span element itself because there's lots of things inside. We just want the text inside of this. And to achieve this, we can use an Xpath function that is called string. Okay, I messed this up here. That is called string. And then we have this specific snippet. And once you have these keys, yeah, you play around with this here. Once you have this, you can add them as columns here in the column setup. Click apply column setup, and then you have these here. For example, the headline column here is created by this expression here. Take CSS, the link in the item, and then we use Xpath to extract the string. You may notice you have to learn a little bit about Xpath and CSS. This is some basic technique in this area of web design and web scraping. But you can start with these expressions here or with the presets. And there is a short introduction in the Facepager wiki as well that could help you with getting started here. And I will give you a very, very short overview about what is necessary to know in CSS and Xpath on these two slides. But this will just go for 2 minutes, and then we have 5 minutes for you. And this is like, for me, this kind of practical lab with working on web scraping is in 1 hour. It's very limited, so it's just showing you where you can go and giving you the first steps, and then you have to learn it step by step. So CSS is best for selecting elements we saw before, anchor tags, list elements, and this can be achieved by name. So if you know the name of the element, you just type LE, for example, for list element. If they have an ID attribute, you can use this syntax here. A hash contact, for example, selects all elements that have this ID. Or you can select them by class. If there is a class inside, for example, teaser class, you can use this .teaser, and you can combine these techniques. For example, below here we have an unordered list with the ID contact, and inside of this there should be a list element with the class CEO and as well with the class VIP, and below this there should be an anchor tag that would say this expression here. the greater sign here says it must be directly below, not just somewhere in the structure below, but directly below. If you don't say this, it's if you use a space between these, it says somewhere below and not directly below. This is CSS, and Xpath is a little bit more complicated in the first run, but it's best for selecting text and attributes. You have the same features like in CSS, but some more. So we can select by name. This would select all list elements, for example, somewhere in the hierarchy, and you start by using these double dashes to say somewhere in my HTML. No, don't care where, somewhere, all list elements. You can say it has to be with this attribute, for example, this ID attribute, and you say it in these square brackets. And you could replace the dot here by UL to select, to combine this and say all UL or LI elements with this ID, or you set a dot here and this dot says all elements. And then you can say, okay, give me in the next step, for example, the attribute, the href attribute here to get the links. You have some options to get to the text inside of these. For example, if you want only text inside of one element, you can use this /text, or to convert everything in the selected element to text, you use the string function. That's Xpath. Okay, now you have seen a lot of things. Maybe some of you already know some of this. And if you want, you can get some more help on in the YouTube tutorials. We have a YouTube tutorial about web scraping there, or you can go to the Facepager user group. And as I said, it's an experimental feature. This web scraping. I used this for some special data collections I did, and then every time I need something, I implement it in Facepager. And so if you give me feedback on this, we will further improve this. There's lots there are lots of more features for web scraping in Facepager. We only touched some of them for now. So maybe you have some questions, or we should look at a specific problem. Okay, how did we get to extract data? There is this button in the top right.
I guess
okay, someone asked.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I think I need to scroll up the chat here. Facebook. Other sites like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. You asked for WeContactor. Yeah, I didn't try WeContactor with Facepager, but in essence, everything should be possible with Facepager. So I think yes, but you need to dive into the details there. Yeah. Technical terms. Parallel threads request. Okay. Yeah. I mean, time is up, so I could explain some technical terms for now, but maybe I better show you where you find the explanation later. And I'll post you the link in the chat. You have a page in the wiki that explains these general settings. Yeah. Okay. Any more? Well, what's your feeling about this now? Who of you has the feeling, okay, I understand a little bit of this, or who says, oh, this is all Greek to me, what's this? Just give me a little bit of feedback, because I need to learn how to improve these features and this web scraping tutorials.
I guess they're all very, very like the head having all these kind of connections and possibilities. So I think that's why everybody was just like, okay, quiet. But I think it how, just like Maria wrote here, like lots of potentials and how can I get more from this? So I think this, they are all going to play around with the software. I believe this is probably the best feedback there.
Yeah, you got the gist of it. Yeah, trial and error. I think this is the way. That's what Facepager, what our mission is with Facepager, to get you into this a little bit. Yeah, to get you started with this. And you could use other packages or commercial software or something like this, but this gets you to a basic understanding of how, for example, the web works. If you follow this a little bit, and gets you very deep into this matter. And that's what I think, that's our mission. That's what I think is essential if you use it for academic research, that you understand a little bit about these technical things you're doing there when you work on web data. Yeah.
Jacob, I think now we have our time's up, but I think I just pasted there the group on Facebook from Facepager users. Yeah. Maybe people can go there and look what other kind of difficulties people already have, and then may learn from this. And but thank you very much for this more introduction. And I think now we can. I'm not sure if you wanted to say something more before we start with the next one.
Let's say goodbye. And the last proposal from Charles here is to have a repository with presets. We have started collecting some on the wiki page, but if you have presets, send them to me and we will try to figure out how to build a repository. So for now, goodbye. Thanks for being with me here, and I hope you learned a little bit about
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you very much.
I think now